This is iDesign Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curator of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. iDesign Lab is your ultimate design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends. Today on iDesign Lab, we're joined by Bradley and Jonina Skaggs, founders and creative directors of Skaggs Creative, the agency behind some of the most refined brands in beauty, fragrance, and hospitality. Trained as architects in Europe and guided by form follows function and less is more, Skaggs designs brands from the inside out, shaping not just how they look, but how they're remembered.
Welcome to the iDesign Lab podcast. Today we're joined remotely by the design duo behind Skaggs Creative. We'd like to welcome Bradley and Jonina Skaggs to the podcast today. Would you introduce yourselves to our listeners?
Sure. Tell us a little about yourselves, because you have an interesting story. You're originally from Germany, correct? And started in architecture?
I'm originally from Iceland, but then I studied in Germany. And then I lived in Luxembourg with Bradley for 3 years. And then we moved to San Francisco, and now we're here in New York.
Amazing. Cross country and from Europe, too. So tell us where your love for being creative and obviously design was really introduced and set the tone for your career.
So we both met in architecture school, and therefore design was a part of both of our lives, I think, before we met.
Yeah.
Certainly crystallized in architecture school, and then the agency was born out of kind of necessity in a way, because Jonina was finishing her master's or MFA and freelancing and had a ton of work. And I was an architect then, but I was doing a lot of work in the early days of 3D CAD.
Okay.
And it led to a project with NASA to do a virtual tour of their 10 facilities in the US and take that as a web experience. And so with her doing their master's degree and me doing that, it was like the agency kind of formed out of that. So it's just always been our thing.
So your architectural was more in commercial?
Yeah, it was at least there in Europe, it was more urbanism and planning. And in California and San Francisco, I worked for a firm that did a lot of work in Silicon Valley with tech companies.
What a great time to, come alive into that background, the design world, so much innovation.
Yeah, and it was right during the .com
boom
when it totally started and blew up. And it was a pretty exciting time down there. But obviously in that part of the world, everything revolves around tech. And at least in California, there was a good food and wine aspect to it too. But it was New York when we moved here that we really got into more hospitality, and that led us into beauty. And beauty's been our sweet spot for 15 so plus years.
But you mentioned NASA, so you were doing, you said 3D, or what was it you were doing for NASA?
So it was the project I have two friends who wrote a grant, and it was to do a virtual tour of all 10 NASA facilities and then build a web experience where you could tour them. And it was the time when QuickTime VR had come out, where you could stitch together a set of photos to build a reality you could pan around in. And they were both scientists and had started to develop a curriculum around it for children to teach in schools. But you could basically navigate it by different topic, by location, or by.
Right. That's interesting. What period of time was that you were doing that work? What years?
Oh, it was.
The reason why I ask, because I'm going to say it was the early 2000s. My company, we were doing a lot of work for NASA, but really up at Cape Canaveral, doing the films and so forth for the Visitors Center there. And then we were doing a lot of sort of documenting a lot of the NASA, like they had an area up at Cape Canaveral called the Graveyard, which had all the old structures and things from, the past 10, 15 years, space missions
Yeah, I think
prior.
we stopped that actually.
What's that?
I think we shopped that as part of the whole process because we did all of them. But you could be inside labs, you could be inside simulators, you could be inside gantries, you could be all kinds of places. But it was right around that period of time because we were just ready to launch it, and then 9/11 happened, and it never saw the light of day. Which was sad.
Really? All that work.
So you end up moving to New York.
To do it.
2 years.
Yeah.
Does it live in infamy somewhere on a hard drive?
Yeah, on a hard drive.
On a CD-ROM.
Oh yeah, exactly. Right.
Maybe someday it would be fun to bring it back, given what technology is today and what you could probably do.
Right. Exactly. It would be. It really would be, and just to see how far things have come.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I find so fascinating is that you started with such an architecture background, obviously, which is a love of design and creativity. And you, as your creative process has evolved, you've gone all the way to like photography and product development, which is part of like Scott's passion world. How did that pivot come about?
Estée Lauder. We got hired by Estée Lauder to do their fragrance. Well, as you know,
prestige fragrance.
Yes. And as you know, if it's Tommy Hilfiger or DKNY, we did Tom Ford.
Michael
Kors, sorry. And none of them are involved with the process. They just license their name and then they make the juice. And then we had to create the story around it. And we did that for a lot of fragrances that you know today. So that was sort of the pivot point.
But you moved to New York and you're architects, correct?
Yeah.
So at what point did you realize, or how did you go from being an architect to designing, brands and ad campaigns and packaging?
Well,
So they do go hand in hand.
Was there someone you met, you bumped into? Was there someone came to you, and how do you jump from one to the other?
It happened because Jonina finished school and really didn't like being an architect.
Okay.
3 years I'm practicing.
And we were living in Luxembourg then, and there was a guy who I was working for. We shared a space, and they did this art publication of the Luxembourg art scene. And they produced a little monthly guide, and they needed somebody to help them lay it out. And Jonina was like, "I'll try it." And she's like, "I really love this. This is graphic design. This is what I want to do." So that's what she went back and did her MFA in. And for me, with the NASA thing and the digital part, it was something I just loved, and they kind of just all dovetailed together. So yes, in the beginning, Skaggs was very much a graphic design shop, but as we grew and had different clients, especially when we got to New York, like she was saying about Estée Lauder, it started to evolve more into
storytelling
and branding, and then bigger film
packaging.
So you go from an architect to graphics design. Who was like your first client that got you started? Microsoft. So you're talking a major
Technical,
company.
Yeah.
So did you do branding for them? Did you do packaging for them?
They had a product. This is way back when too. It was called Replay TV, and it was a predecessor.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I do remember Replay TV.
Yeah, it was a predecessor to TiVo and all of that.
Yep, exactly.
We did on that project, the packaging for it, the instructions, everything.
Giveaways, everything.
But I have to ask, how did you get awarded a project like that? Did you have a contact at Microsoft?
Well, like everything in life, that's who you know.
It's all who you know, right? Isn't that the truth?
So there was a woman that she went to her MFA with who got a job there, and that's how we got pulled into it.
Yeah.
What a wild...
That one was called Web TV, and then we did also Replay TV.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
it's wild to me that you go from something, Microsoft, which is so, I don't want to say the word is, I don't want to mean, it's more structural, I guess. And then you go to something that's beauty, where you're really selling something that you can't necessarily see. So how did that evolution evolve for you? Like, what was your timeline?
It is kind of an interesting question when you frame it that way, but it was sort of, for us, I guess, a natural progression, because architecture is a design field where you study scale, right? From the urban size down to like a doorknob. And I think the only thing that comes close to it is probably industrial design when you think about it that way in terms of scale. So the principles apply to everything.
Right, I agree.
So to make the pivot wasn't crazy.
No.
But it was sort of the organic nature of it. We were chasing 2 projects in New York. And actually, when we started the agency, most of our clients were either architects or engineers.
Or furniture
companies, or somebody in the industry, because they knew that we could talk their talk.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a nice way to rely on.
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with a brand called Vitra.
No.
But they're a European contract manufacturer, product manufacturing company. They have all the rights to Eames stuff in Europe.
Okay.
The classics, right?
Yeah.
We really wanted to work with them. And it became clear that we were not going to be able to until we had an office in New York. So we had a small space. We called them up. We're in New York. They're like, okay, let's get started. So it happened.
Isn't that crazy? Where perception is that important, right?
Yeah.
You needed that address.
Yeah, it's counting. And then like you were saying, the Estée Lauder thing, the United woman who, had been the former beauty editor of InStyle magazine, and she knew some people, and you sort of network your way around, and that's how Estée Lauder started. And then that put us into beauty. I got a cold call out of the blue from Diptyque, their e-com director,
which is a huge brand.
Their first real e-com sites, and did their global digital for 8 years or so.
And then while we were doing Diptyque, somebody at Charlotte Tilbury had seen what we had been doing for Diptyque, and then we got a cold call from them.
So basically, you were off and running for sure. You were,
and that really put us in beauty. And beauty's, like I said, been our sweet spot for 15 plus years.
So what was the most surprising, aspect to getting into this beauty category? I noticed the photography, and doing some of my own homework to discuss with you both today, like the simplicity in highlighting a product versus all the other elements fascinated me. Like how you really have to, have a goal. To each shoot.
Well, I would say when we started in beauty, the companies wanted to, like, let's take Charlotte Tilbury, for example. She just had her own path, didn't care what anyone else was doing around her, what were competitors. She just had a vision. And we loved that. And they were so organized and just amazing to work with. But now we feel everybody wants to copy everybody. Whoever is successful, then it's sort of this Me Too generation of companies that are
not innovating.
Why would you want to look like somebody else, like a competition?
We agree.
Beat your own drum.
Yes, we agree. We agree. And that's, part of why we have even started the iDesign podcast, because in our background, you have some of these cookie cutter home projects coming up for developers. And I approach things the same way. Like, you need to stand out, separate. You don't want to just blend in.
Yeah.
But I would say, too, that back when it was Charlotte and Diptyque, this was really the rise of e-com at that time. Social media wasn't really there yet.
Right.
Like you had MySpace, right? So this whole saturation of influencers and all that stuff that happens today, which I think sort of exacerbates the situation with being a Me Too.
Right.
wasn't there. So it was really, really focused on the brand and what made brands important. And I still think that applies. And a lot of our work today is helping brands understand who they really are at their core, and what makes them, different and unique, and how they should be, like she said, beating to that drum beat rather than what everybody else is doing and trying to be like somebody else.
So is your main focus, has it really been helping a brand develop their brand, or just or developing the packaging after they've already kind of got a branding, both?
Yeah.
It depends on where they are in their sort of growth cycle. If they're a young startup, then it's really getting that positioning and messaging worked out, and then how that translates into packaging and the web and sort of things like that.
And marketing.
And if they're more of an established company, it's who maybe has lost their way. It's like trying to get them refocused and back on the right path.
So take us through your process. So so say you got this cold call from Diptyque, so which is I'm very familiar with that brand, which is fragrance, but candles and a lot of, home fragrance. You get that call. What does your process look like? I'm comparing it to my process. What is that initial meeting, that intake, and what are the steps that go forward to bringing it to launch?
You want them to?
Yeah. Well, Diptyque is a. Let me just put it this way. A lot of times when you talk to a brand like that, the first thing you do is kind of look at their website or they're talking about it. But 9 times out of 10, they have a messaging problem. What they're saying and what they're portraying do not connect. And it's, I get it. It's very hard, especially for our founder brands, for founders to get what's in their head out on paper.
Right, translate.
And it's the same thing with, I remember from your architecture, and probably where you are too, people have a vision of what their house wants to look like or something, but trying to get that out of their head and on the paper, it's a real skill, right?
It is. And I love and appreciate when they do rely on experts to carry out that vision.
Yeah. So a lot of times it starts with that conversation about who they are and what they're saying, and then where they need to go from it. And often they have particular needs anyhow when they call you.
And how long does that process take for you to kind of come up with that next layer of vision and translation of their founder vision?
It takes couple weeks, actually, 3-4 weeks. Typically, it's in the beginning, and it actually kind of came out of the fact that all these companies were coming to us, and you can look at it and say, like, they all have the same problem. So we started building a methodology around how to solve that.
So is that
what's interesting about it?
You go ahead. No, go finish.
I was just saying, what's interesting about it today is how we augment that process with AI to really do the research and find the patterns, and then we use our experience and our intellect to figure out what the signals in that pattern, and that's interesting now, because the amount of data that's out there and how you can use it to synthesize and understand, which just gives us more time to focus on the creative side of it and really what it means to the brand, instead of dedicating a month to deep market research, which is honestly not going to talk to even a fraction of the entire market of the brand, really, right? So that's kind of where it's going right now.
So interesting. So is this where your principles, form follows function, was kind of born?
No, that was formed way back in architecture school. I think, learn about the Bauhaus and Mies and all those guys, right? But it's always just been the sort of that and less is more. It's always just been two of the sort of things we live by.
So I noticed that in the photography for the products, and as we're even having this conversation, I'm thinking, as my design process is bringing multiple things to a single vision, and you're kind of taking singular things and bringing it to a wider vision.
That's fair to say. often if it's a product or a new product, then it's all about that product, right? If it's about the brand, then maybe it's looking at the whole line of products and everything. The product photography really came out of the fact that we were just amazed. We'd ask brands for their assets and they would not either have none, or what they had were just so awful or off the mark. And it was like, how about if we start to shoot this and do it that way? And that was great, because it actually really, I think, helps our creative be a bit stronger, because everything aligns then, the aesthetic that's set visually,
you have
both
the
graphically
control.
And photography. Yeah.
So take us through the photography process of a lipstick.
Lipstick.
Well, before you do that, did you have a photography background?
I had been fascinated with it since I was in high school, and I was a photographer, like the shot for the high school newspaper. And my dream at that point was I wanted to shoot for National Geographic. And then I got an architecture and there was no time to pick up the camera. I picked it back up when we lived in Europe. And then I put it back away when we were trying to build a company. And then this thing happened where it's like, we need to start shooting. So I got it back out, and
now we are full studio.
Yeah.
Because it seems to have become a very big facet of what you do from a creative standpoint for brands, the photography that you're bringing to the table for these brands. I mean, that alone is like another, creative business and design business that you've really mastered.
And it's definitely another business. And it's a business now which I think is being heavily impacted by AI.
It is.
Yeah, but...
And I can understand it in a good way.
No, you can see a mile away what's AI and what's not.
And how do you feel? What do you feel about that? How do you?
I think we look at AI just like we look at Photoshop was, right? It's a tool.
It's a tool. I agree. Right.
And it's not going to do anything for you. You've got to understand how to use it.
How lighting works.
Agreed.
Yep.
Right, and how texture and specularity and all that sort of stuff goes together to make something have a form and a shape that.
And I noticed that so much in your photography, because like I said, you take a single item and yet there is so many different facets that you can focus on in that photography that really speaks to the quality of the item.
Yeah, and I think when you look at like products, they're like little buildings,
Yeah.
You kind of look at it like it's the same thing, like the way you light a space or building.
I know, but it's fascinating to me that like so much focus is taken in something so miniature.
Because even as small, it's still got material, it's got color,
it has facet,
it's got a form, a shape. So light is going to help define that. So
right.
What you're trying to achieve is to make that object feel three-dimensional in a two-dimensional space.
So as this photography component has taken on such importance in your creative work, is there a particular campaign that obviously a lot of these names are big names that we are speaking of. Is there a favorite one that really just, tell us about that one?
Yeah, Linda Bouchard.
We worked on a fragrance brand called Bouchard Colbert. Beautiful fragrances. They're all inspired by music or operas.
Oh,
actually.
How cool is that?
And so if you look at the photography, each one, like there's Knife Thrower and there's Lulu and there's different ones. But what's interesting about it is they have their own opera story to it. So the photography is really about trying to pull each of those stories out, and how that played into the bigger branding of the packaging and everything, with each having its own illustrative world of
personality.
Personality. And it was a moment where we had a lot of creative liberty, where we could do what we wanted to do, and how to connect the photography to the graphic design and the layouts and the illustration. And I think it's a great example of what's possible.
What's the What's the hardest part about the design process of, not running into burnout or running out of ideas? Because you're dealing with so many different brands and so many different products that, you've got to be unique and original with each one.
The hardest part, I think, is to convince the owners, the client, the marketing team to
take the chance
and be different and be who they really need to be and not like somebody else. And our biggest frustration is when they don't listen.
And sounds from like my
yeah. And we actually we have never done this before. Well, a few years back, we were working with a startup company, and they would not listen to us. They wanted to be exactly like the direct competitor. You can't do that. And sure enough, we gave her everything that we had done, and we said, we don't want you to fail, but I think
you're able to
find somebody else.
Were you able to overcome that? Were you able to pitch them to be open-minded?
It's a very tough decision to make, but
yeah. But we've only gone to way maybe twice in all these years.
But the brand actually failed. They're not around anymore because they were doing exactly what the competition was doing. Exactly. Really everything.
Because
color palette.
One part of your business is about the creative process, in creating and coming up with the ideas and the design. But then there's the other aspect of your business that you now have created all these ideas or the branding, but you've got to pitch it and sell it where the client's going to believe in it.
So the trick to that is, and I think you can relate to this too, you're as much a designer as you are a therapist.
Oh, right. Totally. Yeah.
And a lot of
hand
times,
holder.
yeah. But what's the secret, right? It's listening.
Right. It is.
And understanding where their pain points are and what keeps them up at night. And then you rationalize against that. So you were saying that that happened. So this solves that problem directly because of this, this, and this. They can't refute that often because they said it themselves, right?
Right.
But obviously getting to that point can be tricky, especially when we always joke that there's two types of clients, right? Those who know what they want, but not what they need, and those who know what they need and not what they want.
Right.
And the first step is figuring that out. There's a third type too, the ones who don't pay. But
which leads
it's actually I hate to say this, but the wealthier the people behind the company are, they literally
it's become more a problem.
Yeah.
They want more complete control. That was like kind of leading me to, like, as creative directors, how do you protect the integrity of these concepts while collaborating?
Well, we often, you always give them what they want, and then you give them what they need. Or like what you think they need.
Right. So, which is why they are coming to you in the first place.
Yeah. And then often it ends up that that makes sense. I get it now. And they go with what you're talking about.
Right.
Like, if you just, I think in the beginning we were naive and we would just like, you have to do it like this, and they'd be like, huh? You didn't
realize the finesse that had to come along with that pitch.
And that's just part of learning and growing, just understanding that part.
It really is. It is. I always say in the beginning of my meetings when I'm presenting, I said, I'm here to plant seeds. I want you to listen, take it in. You brought me in to bring you a fresh perspective, a new, vision, and we'll get to the same end result, but just hear my thoughts. And they do eventually always come back to the beginning.
That's exactly it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The creative process, right? So as a couple, how do you balance in your collaboration and your roles in
This one took us a long time to figure out.
Probably still figuring it out, as Scott and I.
Yeah. So is one of you more creative and one more business, or you both do the same? Or
she does art direction, I do creative direction. That's how it started.
Well, now what's more strategic?
Now it's shifted to be me more strategic, and she does more of the creative. So
and who does most of the pitching when the creative is all done? Now you've got to pitch it and sell it to the client. Is that collaborative?
Bradley.
What's that?
Bradley.
No, it's me, but it's a collaborative to a degree.
Okay.
It's just, I mean, honestly, it depends on the client and the project and what's happening, right? Nothing's, that's the thing about the creative world, right?
You have to be fluid. Yeah. You have to.
It's always different. And that's what I think we both really love about it is we don't get up every day doing the same thing.
Same thing. Each
It's always
project is
different
unique.
Yeah.
The experience.
And it makes it fun.
Agreed.
Are there any particular projects that you really get excited about or more excited about?
Packaging is the most fun for us because we're architects. So we can, especially when we do, we just launched,
primary packaging or
Roger.
designing the actual bottle or whatever.
Yeah, so if it's a bottle, we have to design from scratch and not just take something that is already made.
Shock.
So
That
you're designing bottles.
Like we launched a lip gloss line back in November. The packaging is 100% custom.
That is
Every
so
bit of-
exciting. And I can't imagine where your architecture backgrounds collide with that. I mean, what a process.
Yeah, it's fun because, like I said, they're like little buildings.
They are like little buildings. So
structures.
do you actually create a prototype, like with your hands, with paper? Are you just kind of like,
Totally.
what's your...
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually funny you bring that up because anybody who works for us, the first thing they get when they walk in the office is a notebook. And you have to draw.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before you get on the computer, you have to sketch.
I know.
That's the
I
rule.
actually, like somewhere on one of the podcasts, they said something about doodling is part of like the creative process too. Like doodling is a sure sign of somebody who's got that creative.
But it's funny, like, young kids who work with us, they come out of school, like
They don't have
they don't
paper and
learn it, though.
pencils. I know.
No, and they just get around the computer and they spend all this time going in circles. Like, start out sketching first, and then you'll see it. And
a lot of times, if we're trying out new forms, it's not their fault, but it's more the schools have stopped to teach them not to cut things out. So for the past
like how to cut
5
face
years, when I say Zactal knife, they look at me like, what is that?
Well, it's really the hand drawing is really a dying art.
I think they're so beautiful. I still love, presenting with a hand drawing. I still feel like that sets a story that computers just can't, the renders.
I just think it's more efficient too. If you have a sketch you've done, then to go on the computer, you've
and there's more heart connection to it, I believe, too, which is, I'm sure something that really sets you guys apart as well.
So you've designed and you've designed and branded for a lot of iconic and big names. Is there a brand out there that you wish you could have rebranded because you felt the branding didn't hit the mark, or you would have loved to have seen it done differently? Have you ever thought about that?
Oh yeah,
I would think a lot.
But I couldn't name one now.
What's our makeup brand?
Which one?
No. It's on our list.
Just tell me I don't know this.
Now the first one.
Oh, Laura Geller.
Yeah. She could do a little better.
Pat McGrath.
Yeah.
There's so many iconically great brands that are, they have little troubles here and there, like all of them. But I just feel like sometimes they end up in the same do it again mission, and I think it really has to do with social media, and that's all they pay attention to.
Right.
And they're not looking at like legacy. It's all about the temporal nature of social. It's all disposable.
It's all disposable.
But the brand isn't or shouldn't be, right?
Yes,
so
yeah.
how do you move beyond that so that you're building something that has longevity? And I think sorry to say it again, but it comes back to being true to who you are as a brand and not trying to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of conversations, I would think, with the founders, really, too.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all predicated by having a great product, right? Or great formulations. If the product isn't there, then there's no point doing anything else.
And have you ever had to say, like, this product just isn't for us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Suddenly when you say it, a lot of times they know it already and they're just looking for that validation.
For that confirmation.
And then it's like, but look, it's not the end of the world. You can reformulate.
Right.
And maybe if you reformulate, you can save some money. Maybe there's newer technology out there that you can use for better delivery systems or whatever, or for absorption, or who knows. But
it's so interesting to me now, as it would, like, your career taking on this path to beauty, because I'm absolutely flabbergasted at the amount of beauty products available, and everybody has a beauty line. Every influence,
it's absurd.
It's becoming so saturated, which obviously I'm sure you're very aware of. And, part of this branding is really highlighting a special product, where some of these brands today are highlighting a person.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, look at celebrity brands. By and large, that's just an endorsement.
I mean, every housewife has a lip gloss. It's like, it's such a fascinating market.
But it's I think I would argue it's like a lot of things. The parallel would be food.
Right. Yes.
Everybody can cook. Some people can cook better than others, and some chefs are like rock star great chefs, and they're like the really great beauty brands or beauty formulators, right? They're
right,
or perfumers or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
There's different levels.
There's a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
But to your point, there is no doubt a ridiculous amount of beauty products now,
and a lot of them are formulated actually the same way. If you start to look at the ingredients,
I'm sure
they're all the same.
I'm
they
sure.
Take the same base formulas
and then it just comes back to packaging, right? And the story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I am blown away by the creative process, to like how much you guys do get involved, where these brands do have like the branding trips, they have the branding giveaways, are you involved in all of that?
It depends on what we're doing. Sometimes we do marketing. Marketing on our favorite thing to do.
Right. You like to really focus and hone in on the product.
Well, I think especially with beauty and especially with skincare, that needs to be driven in-house, because people have concerns and questions and things that they need to be speaking straight to the brand, right?
That's
and
true.
So, but
we help with marketing.
We do a lot of marketing for brands, for sure.
I mean, when we talk marketing, it's more like
digital
ads, email campaigns, website maintenance. But we feel like Bradley was saying, if you're running especially if it's skincare, and if it's a skincare line that is built around special concerns, they have to do the social media, or at least have a team in-house that can get back to the clients if something happens, if they have an outbreak
or question.
They need to have that. And same thing with supplements. I feel that's
true. It's a whole nother
personal thing.
Yeah. So what's one of the projects that you're working on right now that you could share that maybe hasn't been launched yet?
I can't really talk about any of that. but the one, but there's a lot of interesting things happening.
Yeah, the lip glosses that we launched with the with our client in Monaco, they're coming out with a few more products that are all related to makeup, or I wouldn't say skincare quite yet.
Yeah, and we're working on an Irish brand that's doing we're trying to pioneer home wellness with them, develop a category around home wellness, which is an interesting concept, I think.
I was like, yes, tell us more about that concept.
I don't know if I want to.
I don't think we can. Yeah. Well, that's the reason why we can't. We have signed NDAs. So
right, I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
For a young,
but there's all kinds of interesting things.
So for a young designer who's looking to break into this industry, who's going, and learning, what advice would you give them?
Go to a print shop to begin with. Smell the turpentine and see how printing works. That's another thing that a lot of, especially if the designer is interested in doing packaging, they need to see how it all goes together, how prototypes are made, how printing works, to understand that, no, I can't just do it all on a computer. I have to get my hands dirty.
Right.
Yeah, I have to build it.
Another thing is actually what I feel is lacking is the understanding of typography and setting type, how to create hierarchy when you're writing something or when you're putting it on a packaging. There are so many packages I see right now, but there is absolutely no hierarchy. Everything is set in the same way.
And your eye doesn't know what to put at.
And your eye just goes in circles.
Because they don't teach it. They don't teach typography in school anymore.
Which is
probably the most important piece.
Which is extremely important from a standpoint when a product goes on a shelf in retail, and the consumer's walking, and it's a lip balm section, and there's 15 different products. What's your eye's going to get drawn to first? Which one is the consumer going to stop and just because of how the packaging is done?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, the hierarchy of the font size and the style, draws the
then
eye.
Once it gets your attention and you pick it up, then the readability of understanding what makes this product great.
So have you as designers and packaging and so forth, because I've done this in some products that I've been involved in, where I basically spent time, in a drugstore watching consumers go up to it and asking them, why did you pick that?
Yeah.
You do your reconnaissance.
What made you pick that? Why did you pick a Brever over the 9 other cold sore products that were on the shelf?
Yeah. No, it's funny. We were having a conversation the other day with a woman who we work with who does market research, and we were talking about AI and how it does it impact her business and in what ways. But what you realize that it can't do is it cannot do behavioral analytics, right? You need still to be there and talk to people like, why did you do that?
It can't create feeling either.
Yeah. So,
but I kind of feel that's old school. That's something that I don't think they teach in school today, and they're putting an emphasis on that.
No.
I mean, I think the part of that has changed. I remember back in the day when you used to take, concept boards and you would ask random people, what do you think of it? Would you pick concept 1 or 2, right? I don't think that exists so much anymore just because you can test that so quickly just on social media.
Right. So do you, with any of your concepts, do you ever do focus groups internally or externally to help you?
That's what I'm saying. Not nearly like we used to, just because you can test so much of it just on social now. But to what you were saying, that's a whole different thing about consumer behavior and why did you pick that product and not this one? Or that's interesting. And I don't think that will change ever because that's just human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I've done a fair amount of that myself and realized how important it is, how a consumer just walking up in that first few seconds, how their eye is drawn to a particular product and why, and then asking people.
And that's why design matters, you know?
Yeah. But a lot of it is also driven by social media now. My niece who lives in Iceland lived with us for 7 weeks here in New York, and one evening we opened up the refrigerator and we saw all these weird products in there. And we're like, where did you get that from and why did you buy it? And it was all because she was
the
on
bottle.
Because of
TikTok. No, it was TikTok. And
TikTok.
She thought
Yes. I know
TikTok.
we're planning our spring break trip, and my kids, my husband's thinking, what are some of the sites you want to go see? Where do you want to explore? And they come back with the top TikTok, stops. It definitely is that new generation. TikTok is 100% there.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It really is. It's totally.
But that's okay, I think, because that, it's. When you're talking about something you eat or put on your skin that just how do you know this kid knows what he's even talking about in the first place?
Isn't that the truth?
That's a different story. Whether or not it's some guy's 5-second clip of looking at the pyramids of Giza, okay,
right.
Fine. Not going to hurt you. But it's very different when you're talking about something that has a potential health benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
So
impact.
Do your campaigns speak to that sometimes too, highlighting?
But yes, people were trying to get away from this, trying to say everything. Brands all want to say the same thing. We're clean, we're green, but what does that mean today?
Yeah.
Right. It's so true.
And it doesn't separate you anymore because everybody says it now.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like table stakes keep changing, and good. Because you shouldn't have to keep saying the same things over and over and over. The society should catch up and realize that it's better that things are good for the environment, that they're vegan, that they're not being tested on animals. All that stuff should just be
a
normal.
given.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you.
But it's amazing how many don't, and they still make that their main messaging. Meanwhile, they own, 3 patents for this, that, or the other thing that they don't talk about except on the 3rd page and at the bottom of the about page. That's your differentiator, and you've buried it.
Yeah.
Right,
It's funny.
Right.
So are you part of a brand mainly for a certain campaign, or are you there for like the long haul?
The long haul.
We're like, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
It's a lot more fun.
Yeah, it's more
honestly,
intentional.
because you grow with the brand, and
Right.
you things come up, opportunities come up, problems come up, and you just solve them, or you take advantage of them.
Well, something like, obviously I love Charlotte Tilbury myself, and traveling, and shopping in other countries and places. Her actual like boutiques are like just eye candy, especially with my background. Are you part of those meetings and collaborations as well, or strictly just product and the packaging?
Well, we were in the beginning once she did the first one on Common Garden.
Yeah, but she has a
team.
good design team who does her retail work. But
Yeah. But we were always involved with,
where it started when we worked with her was in the very, very beginning. She was 35 people or something, it was, and we did their first e-com site, and she hadn't opened the store yet in Covent Garden. She was just going to do that. But along this time,
the months that she took that we did for
that's not getting that.
Yeah.
So we created like on the website this thing called Charlotte's World, which was like behind the curtain where you really understand who she was as a makeup artist and her career. And I think some of that ended up translating into the downstairs part of that, where it was more the boudoir kind of cool feel. But she's one of those people, though, who's wonderful because she had a very clear vision about what she was about. And she is exactly who she is.
Yeah.
When you meet her in person,
And that
what you see in her
speaks to her
videos.
success for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, without a doubt.
She's the real deal.
Yeah. And that is...
And there was no bullshit. I mean, it's just straight on. I love that.
So you've intentionally kept your agency small. How have you seen that as a benefit?
We turn things around really quickly.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no hierarchy. We're all in it together. We're all get our hands dirty, and everybody's
the A team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
There was we were much larger. We had
4 or 5 folks still. Yeah.
And then we, after actually the pandemic solidified a lot of it, because we realized like
it cut out the fat.
we had to do all this ourselves faster and maybe even better. I don't know.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you got to have a team, you know, and the team's got to be on the same page. And we're very conscious about keeping everybody involved on everything.
Yeah, we do that.
Even though
here
one
too.
person may take a lead on it just to be the day-to-day. But because everybody's going to look at it slightly differently, or somebody may be home, have an epiphany while they're in the shower. And
Yep,
you come back and like, wow, that's a great idea. We should do that, you know? So I think it just works better. And I think clients appreciate it too when they realize they've hired a team.
Yeah.
Right.
And not a bunch of project managers and, you know, one principal who's half in and half out and
we
stuff
have
like that.
But your brand is your last name. So do most people come in and only want to meet with one or the both of you?
Yeah, we have no choice. That was probably the most creative thing we ever did, was naming our company. Awful.
Yeah. Tiffany ran into a situation when she started her company. It was Tiffany Woolley Interiors, and every person that came in the front door only wanted to meet and talk to her on their home. And it got to the point where there was no way she could handle every single home by herself when she had a team. So I said to her, you got to change the name of the company. And we shortened it to TW Interiors to overcome that.
No, it's true. And that's the difference too. Like our projects, and that's the thing I think in architecture that drove us both a little bit crazy. It's just how much time a project takes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Which a lot of clients don't realize or understand that.
The details.
No, especially if you're doing full construction, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The details.
So, or a big, big remodel. It takes a lot of time.
Well, in almost every project we do now, everything after the architectural, the layouts, all the elevations are done. Everything is done, in 3D. So it's photorealistic, of every room and, every wall. And people don't realize, how long that takes. And then you got clients that come back saying, okay, I want to change these 2 chairs and this table and that lamp and that light fixture and that rug. And can you re-render it all? They think, well, can I see it tomorrow?
No.
That's not going to happen.
But you're doing it on the computer. Why not?
Yes.
It's crazy.
We have gotten these requests. Actually, one time a client was in the office. We had a meeting, and she wanted some changes, and she said, "Oh, I'll just wait here until you're done."
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
We
Bring your sleeping bag.
We understand that.
Squeezy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's an interesting point you bring up, because sometimes I feel like when clients don't understand process, especially like manufacturing, package, there's physical constraints to it.
Right.
And even printing like that, it takes a certain amount of time for the ink to dry. You can't speed that up, or, you can only do 33,000 pieces a day and assemble them. That's just what's humanly possible. And they refuse to believe that. And it can be kind of annoying sometimes.
And I'm going to guess, based on our experience, that you can't just go to one printer for every single thing that you're doing. There's certain printers can handle certain types of packaging, we're in we have a tequila brand, and there's really, for us, there's only been one printer in Massachusetts that would do our printing for our boxes and labels and so forth. Really the boxes, but with the labels, it's a different printer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have specialties. I just like one guy we use when we do letterpress, and he's a god when it comes to letterpress.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
he's so good at it.
Yeah.
You don't have to explain it. He'll tell you what needs to happen. Like, it's great. And we have other printers who are that way for, just big run printing things.
Or somebody who creates the, cosmetic brands, you have to have like stickers and labels that are often under the product boxes. That's all he does.
Right.
I know everybody
But-
has their niche.
Yeah.
But it's that knowledge that you have of where to go for the right printing and to get it done right, which is a value that I think sometimes clients don't realize and understand as well, that you're bringing.
No, because often, as you guys know too, they look at the bottom line. Well, he's more expensive.
Right.
Yes,
Correct.
Yeah, he is more expensive for a reason, because he's going to also knows what has to happen from a regulatory point of view, and go with your guy if you want, and you're going to end up what happens.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll
You're
pay
gonna
for
learn-
it twice.
Yeah. Learn by
Yeah.
mistake.
You'll be back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be really frustrating sometimes.
I know. Well, you two have a beautiful creative process, and I'm so amazed at your story of where architecture has brought you, not only in your relationship, but your beautiful brand, and now this niche of your cosmetic work and moving into,
Photography.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Thank you.
thank you so much for sharing your journey, your design journey. You both epitomize everything that we want the world to hear.
Awesome.
Continued
Well, thank you
great
again for having
success in
us.
what you're doing as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
But
you.
thanks for joining us on the iDesign Lab today.
Thanks.
Thank you for allowing us.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the 5-Star and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twinteriors.com.